Hey, Cosmic Witches, and welcome to your first spooky season podcast episode on the Divine Gossip Girls podcast. Maggie, Sophie, and I are going to be bringing you some spooky, magical episodes this Halloween season. So, the season of the witch is upon us. Ignite your inner witch, inner cosmic, magical fairy healer now. And let's dive into some fun. The first episode we are bringing you this spooky season is all around our spooky stories. So, spooky ghost stories, spooky anything stories, or just like magical stories of the universe. I know we've done episodes all around like seeing signs, so we may sprinkle a bit of the magic that we've seen, but also bring you along for any wild rides that us three have been on in terms of our experiences with the spooky mystical. And yeah, we hope you guys enjoy. So let's go ahead and dive right on in.
Hey Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea. So to begin these spooky stories, I'm going to be taking you guys back to my childhood, where I began to play with the Ouija board as a wee little girl. I actually believe it was like in fifth or sixth grade that I had my Ouija board fix. And one, I want to bring up this story because, like, first of all, I think like the Ouija board spirits, like, just personally, I would not mess with Ouija boards anymore because I feel like the energy that comes through Ouija boards, like, I don't know if it's like the best. I don't really know what kind of energy is lingering around Ouija boards. But the energy that me and my friends, like I remember, doing the Ouija board with my friends. And I swear to God, these Ouija board spirits would always call me out. They'd be like, Karlie. They would spell my name. And I was like, fuck this. Like, what the hell is going on? But they would always call me out. It's like as if they knew I was going to awaken to like my spirituality or something. I don't know. The spirits like wanted to connect. And so, we'd always just be like playing with the Ouija board. And my mom told me, she was like, that Ouija board won't work in our house. Like, our house is too protected for a Ouija board energies to be entered in. She's like, you can try all you want, but it's not going to work in our house. And my mom is from Mexico, and my family in Mexico is like very mystical, very healer witchiness. I have an aunt that is definitely a full-on witch. Growing up, my mom used to play with a Ouija board, and my aunts in Mexico have just the craziest stories with the Ouija board. But my mom was like, that Ouija board isn't going to work in our house. And guess what? We brought the Ouija board into my house and it did not work. It didn't work. My mom would like cleanse and protect her house all the time. So apparently that Ouija board did not have some good energy if it did not want to, it couldn't enter into our home. But this is where the story gets good. So one of the times that I'm playing with the Ouija board, it is New Year's Eve, and I'm with my little girlfriends, and we bring it into the basement of one of my friends' house. And it was like an unfinished basement. And we're like playing with the Ouija board. And all of a sudden the spirit starts like calling out my name. It's like, Karlie, like blah, blah, blah. I am like your great great uncle. And I forget what the spirit said their name was, but they said that they died in a mining well. And I was like, oh my God, I just connected with my great great uncle, like Richard or whatever the fuck he said his name was. And so I'm texting my dad and I'm like, Dad, did you have a great great uncle named Richard? And my dad was like, oh my God, I did. And I was like, no way. Like, did he die like in in a mining well? And my dad was like, yeah, he did. And literally, you guys, I went around for a week telling everyone that the Ouija board had connected me to my great great uncle. And literally, my dad tells me a week later that he made it all up and he was just laughing.
That's hilarious.
And I was so freaked out though because I was like, what the fuck did I just connect to?
Just wanted you to be like happy and think that you had some magical experience.
No, yeah, he was just messing with me. He was like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, it was like New Year's Eve. He was probably like with, like, my parents were at a party, like probably a little drunk or something, left like champagne. And my dad's just going along with it. And basically, like, making me believe that this is true. And then after a week, I come to learn that I did not have a great great uncle that died in a mining well accident. And I don't really know what it is that I connected with, but yeah, so that is my first spooky kind of silly story. I no
I
longer play with
did.
Ouija boards, but
I did Ouija boards in like university
So
because my
that's like
friend.
a States
really.
Canadian thing because I just
You
You
know
thought it
the
guys,
was,
boards that they have in like horror movies where you're like
yeah, I
moving?
know what they are,
Yeah.
but I didn't think they were
no,
actually things that
people
people.
people really
You
do
can
play
buy
with
them in
them.
the store. Like you can buy them
I
Hasbro.
just
You
like it's
can
obviously
literally,
Jumanji, right? It just reminds me of Jumanji
yeah, it's like
and
the
like
Well,
the chaos of
it's the
Jumanji.
weirdest feeling because I think it like picks up on your energy. I don't
I
really
didn't
know.
think
I
it was
just
actually a thing that in this day and age.
oh no, people do. People
yeah,
do.
Mm.
because it's licensed, it's trademarked now by Hasbro, who does like
Oh,
Monopoly and stuff like that. So
what can we do on? Do you
it's
guys want to come to
technically
Scotland and we can do a no Ouija board?
We are not
it's
doing a Ouija board. I will not mess with them anymore.
Let's connect with Richard again.
let's connect with Richard. It's technically like marketed as like a child's board game, which is wild because it's by Hasbro, who does like Monopoly and Clue and all those like traditional board games. So you can literally in like Canada and the States, you can go to like Walmart and just like buy one.
No, this is how we know that like the people, the people up there, the big companies and corporations, they know that there is this energy beyond the physical because like why the fuck would they endorse a spiritual game for children to play? But it's also not like I would not recommend a child playing with the Ouija board just for I mean it's fine, it's
Wasn't it like at
fine.
any point anyone was
It's
in
just
danger?
for
Like, did
no.
elephants ever come out of it?
I don't think you're understanding what a Ouija board is.
Like in Jumanji.
It's no, it's like it has like all the letters. It has like letters and numbers on it, and you're all supposed to place your hands on the thing in the
Ah,
center, and it
oh,
moves and it like
eh.
spells things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
And
create a
so,
very light touch, like just like we would just place
yeah,
like the finger
your
tip, and it would
finger.
be like so crazy how it would just start moving over the
Yeah.
board.
I don't know what it is.
And so yeah, we did them in college, and I had like my roommate. It was like Mary, and then she asked her dad, and it was like yeah, her great aunt Mary, and we're like that's crazy, but it was definitely like I feel like we did it for a while, and then I was like oh I'm done. But you know the weird thing is I don't know where our Ouija board went
Oh, that's
because
strange.
because we had one, like a friend of ours had one, but then she moved away. So we were like, LOL, let's buy one. And because like it was the beginning of my spiritual awakening sort of thing, and my roommate and I were like so into it together. And we'd buy like crystals and stuff, and we bought one. And I swear I used to keep it like under my bed. But then when we moved out, like I didn't take it with me, and I don't have it anymore. And I should ask her if she took it, but I don't think she did because it was under my bed.
That's so, it was almost as if it was like, no, do not
Yeah, it just
continue with this.
gone.
That's
So
strange.
strange, but it is what it is. It's gone now. Don't think, same thing. I don't think I would do one again. You guys don't need a Ouija board because you have me.
Yeah, and we all are like fucking psychic now, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't think I would use one because I don't think I need one. And I don't think that, like, I remember doing it and feeling like, ugh, because I feel like it's really, you pick up on the energy really strong and you don't necessarily have that same, like, protections
I
that you have when
just,
you just like do it
yeah,
yourself.
I just don't feel like, at least when I was doing it, like we were like very naive little girls. Like we
Yeah.
were such open channels that I just don't think the best. Like you definitely, because a lot of like, if you've heard of like trickster energy, like
Yeah.
I know sometimes like when I've first started channeling, I would like start interacting with energies and not necessarily know if it was actually like of the highest good, and I didn't really know how to decipher that, and I would like leave things feeling anxious or like weird. And so I feel like a lot of like, it can say, oh, I'm your grandma. The Ouija board is like, I am this person in your life, and like makes you kind of let that energy just kind of enter in. And I just don't feel like it's like for the highest good. And maybe it is now that it's like we're really aware, but I don't even know if a Ouija board would work when you're super protected, because you have to be really like open.
Open.
Yeah. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. I
It's
just
really
wouldn't mess around.
interesting. We the first like really experiences with like spirits and stuff like that I had. I mean, I had some when I was younger, but like where it was like, ooh, this feels a lot more real was when I worked at the crystal shop. It was like this old barn and it was right by the river. And we were told all the time by people that there was like an indigenous man who lived upstairs and we were near a reserve. And you would literally hear like footsteps on the upstairs level when no customers were there. And we had security cameras, and the one security camera was like in the corner of where like everyone said he was. And the one time my friend and I were watching the cameras, and she was like, how crazy would it be if we saw the ghost on the camera? And right as soon as she stopped saying that, the little icon in that corner lit up as if someone was walking there, like detecting movement. And she panicked. She was like, I'm kidding. Please, no, 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 I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And I was just laughing. And you would hear like almost like scraping, like sometimes as if like the furniture was moving up there. And it was really spooky. And we'd have a lot of different people say to us the same thing who, obviously didn't know each other. Like we got the same thing all the time. And the corner he was in right below was the staff room. And the owner's mom, English wasn't her first language, so she was trying to remember the word for ghost. And she was saying something like, oh, the ghost upstairs. She was trying to say something about the ghost upstairs because sometimes our lights would flicker in the staff room. And we would say, oh, let's go, like, just put some tobacco up there. Like, let's go put some little, like, cedar up there or something for him, like, almost just like a little offering. And then usually the lights would stop flickering. And the one time she said, like, something about the ghost upstairs because the lights were flickering, but she couldn't think of the word and she called him the devil upstairs.
Oh
And
no.
he did not like that because then every time her car would pull into the parking lot and the lights in the staff room would go off and would refuse to turn off on until she left.
He was pissed. He was
And we
like,
were
do
like, just
not
go
call me
apologize.
that.
Like, just go take some of this tobacco and just put it in the corner. Like, just be like, sorry, I didn't mean to call you a devil. And she was like, no, no, no. But it was without fail. Every time she was there, they would either turn right off or they would flicker for a little while. And then if she was there too long, off. And you're like, what
Mm,
is this? And that for me, I was like, okay, I've always been open to the idea of ghosts and spirits and like curious, but
yeah.
this one's really strange. And people also told us that we had like kid ghosts in the basement. And we had multiple people tell us, like, we even had people who didn't believe in ghosts be like, someone's kid is running around downstairs because they could hear them like laugh or like little footsteps. And I was like, oh, the downstairs freaked me out. I was like, I don't want to go down there.
Oh my gosh. I
Mm.
even you just saying that, like it makes me curious. What were your guys' like take on like ghosts as children, or like take on like what the fuck we're doing here? Because I don't, this is kind of pivoting a little bit, but I just like for a moment, I'm just curious. Like, did you guys believe in ghosts
Oh,
as children?
100%.
Or like what did you think was going on? When you'd have like sleepovers with your besties and you'd be like
Mhm.
contemplating the universe and you're like, what are we doing? Is this like a matrix? I feel like for me, I think I just grew up very like knowing that energy existed because of my family in Mexico. Like I feel like everyone was always like talking about, like my aunt would just talk about how like, like spirits were moving furniture around in her house, or like I would grow up hearing all
Wow.
these like ghost stories, but I feel like I really was a lot of fear was instilled in me around like the unseen because my family in Mexico was so like Catholic, and my grandma, oh my gosh, my grandma with her rosary would always like, my cousins would love scary movies, but my grandma was like, no, keep that out of my house. Like that's terrible stuff. And so I grew up with such a weird relationship, but I always knew I was like, yeah, ghosts are real and so are aliens and so are like all these things. But I don't think it was like, and then I went through a period in high school where I just kind of forgot about all of that. And I was like, whatever, like the real world is just about what I look like and like my status and how cool I am. And then I came back to remembering that like we don't know anything.
It's actually funny that you like we're now speaking on ghosts because I was actually telling the girls before we jumped on here because we're like, let's talk about spooky stories, and I was like, the first one that came up was literally this afternoon. I was on a call and I was on a call with Erica, my friend, and my like bedroom door was open, and like I can see the bedroom door and the camera, right? And something like something went past the door, like in the hallway, and nobody's in it. It's just me. And I was like, oh, and then and then Erica was like, did you see that? And I said, yeah. And I was like, did you see that? And then I was like, oh my God, there's a ghost in my house. And then, and then Erica was like, but prior to this, I just had like a, not a breakdown, but I had like an emotional release, we'll call it. And she was like, it's just your guides coming to
Oh my
send you
gosh.
some send you some messages. And it's funny because I feel like my relationship with spirituality growing up, it wasn't as tapped in. It wasn't something that was um
Is
like
it like
shared about.
what is the yeah, I was gonna ask like what is the culture like there? Like are people very I
I think
guess
like
like in
spirituality
yeah.
is like becoming more and more like known now.
And there's
But
a lot of
like
history in Scotland
yeah, I
because you
know.
guys
I
had
think
like
maybe I wasn't personally tapped into it. Like
Mhm.
my parents weren't really tapped into it. Like I always remember my mum and my mum's cousins and like her sister, they always used to go to these spiritualists. Like they love a spiritualist. Even to this day, they love a spiritualist. One of my mum's cousins sadly passed away recently, and like a lot of them have been going to see like family members see spiritualists and like having readings and messages about like the passing. But I remember when I was younger, I went to my mum's cousin's house. It was actually the one that passed away recently. And I remember like they had a spiritualist and I was really young. This is like one of the only memories I really have of like my family being like tapped into spirituality because I come from a Catholic background as well. Like my mum's side not so much right now, but they were really Catholic, I think, because my gran was really Catholic, but now that she's gotten a little bit older, she never doesn't go to church, does not practicing Catholic anymore. We've like kind of all tapped out of it a little bit. But because they were super Catholic, it was more about religion rather than like spirituality. Um, it was never something that like was spoke about. But I remember go to my mom's cousin's house, and I can't remember what age I would be, but probably like 9, 10. Like I was super young, like I wasn't like a teenager, I don't think. And they have this, and I remember because I wasn't actually allowed to like get a reading or that because I was like that young. But I remember them like getting these readings and having readings from like past loved ones and messages from their like from spirit and stuff. And that's like the only kind of memory I ever have of my family being tapped into spirituality. And even to this day, like my mum and that, they still go to these readings, but they're not as tapped in to like how much I am. I think my auntie is because she always now sends me like she knows what I do and like sends me little like memes and like quotes and stuff like that and knows the kind of journey I'm on. So I think she is tapped in a way, but that's kind of like the only extent of like spirituality that I was brought up in. So I think it's quite rare for me to now tap
Hmm.
into this kind of like way of
Definitely
being.
was meant to be part of your path
Yeah.
then because it's like you literally had no influences being like, all right, awaken. It
Oh,
literally just happened
definitely.
from
And like
within.
my dad is like doesn't believe in any of this shit. Like doesn't think I went for lunch with him the other week and I was like, do you believe in past lives? And he was just like, no. It's like just like he has is like, no, I don't believe in that. He was telling me the readings that my mum and her like cousins were getting, and he was like, well, they can believe what they want to believe, but I don't believe in all that. Like he doesn't believe in that. Whereas yeah, I think I'm like changing the ways and really opening myself up. And I do, like my mum and my gran, and they don't like stop me from tapping into that way of being. Like they unconditionally like love and accept me, and like they're like, yeah, do what you want to believe, like tap into what you want to tap into, right? But when it comes to ghosts, like kind of like circling back, I don't remember like ever seeing ghosts other than today. We have a ghost in the house with us,
A
guys.
spirit guide, Sophie.
It's
Was
like, oh, we're gonna talk about ghosts, and so Ghost's like, well, better show up.
No, I'm
Better
not
show up
sure.
so Sophie
I'm
has
not
something to say.
pushing me. Come sit down. Do you want to sit down? Come on in. Imagine my door just opened. Oh my God.
no, Sophie, don't say that. Don't
I
say
Imagine my
that.
door just opened and they came and sat
No,
down.
do
I have
not.
so many because
Guys, no.
I
No,
worked at the
can I?
one store, right? And then I worked at another location, and we've been told a lot of people that by a lot of people that uh there was a ghost there, and I think we knew his name, and I can't remember it right now, but he used to I used to sort of like cleanse the area all the time when like stuff started getting too like
This is
on the
my
fritz.
unfiltered, this is my unfiltered Scottish imagination coming out here, but I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this on a podcast. Fuck those. Yeah, this is like,
What
what
are
is
you
she
gonna
going to
say?
say?
Like,
But
what
do
is
you
this
know?
ghost doing to you?
No, I always know this is not even
We can
that
cut
bad,
it
but
out
like
if we need to. Say
if
it.
like ghosts are around us right now, I always imagine like when you're like having sex or when you're naked or like when you're showering,
No,
like and
literally,
people are just
Sophie,
watching you,
I
like
have
your
thought, no,
guides or your
that was
past
my
loved
biggest
ones are
fear.
watching you having sex. Or
That
like
literally was my biggest fear as a child. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm doing this behavior. The ghosts my loved ones passed on are judging me." But I just don't think that's how it works, guys. Like,
no.
it's not how it works.
Maggie's like, no, that doesn't work
It's
like
it's
Well,
that.
not
first of
like
all,
a
there
human
People
sitting
educate
down
us,
watching
please. How does
you.
it work?
It's like energy. It's energy. Like
yeah.
think about ghosts are like energies that are tied to the earthly realm, probably because of like something that's kept them here. So like that's why a lot of times when, there are certain ghosts or like spirits that just aren't they don't, they need to be healed and they're like wreaking havoc in a house or something. So a shaman or like someone will come through and they'll cleanse the space and they'll send the being to a healing place. It's because they're attached to maybe a house because of a traumatic event. It's almost like a glimpse in time where there was like a fragment of the soul that was like tied to a place
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
of
so think
something.
about it this way. Like when I do passive regressions, this happened to me even when I was in a regression where it was like something really traumatic can happen. Like in my passive regression, I died and someone I loved died in a very traumatic way. And I experienced like, okay, like after you experience that, you leave your body, you see what happens, and then you move on to the light. And like I took a long time to like go and do that because it was like I couldn't I was trying to stop what was happening almost. Like it was like
Yeah.
I couldn't come to terms with what was happening. I don't think that necessarily means that this person hasn't moved on because I think time is like a construct, but I do also think there's different from like an impression of a soul that's been left over who like is
Yeah, I
angry or upset versus like a spirit guide or a past loved one who's like in this different space where they have like a greater understanding of everything else going on. I think a ghost isn't gonna like guide you. They're like an impression
Yeah.
of a big charge of energy and emotion that like is sort of
like it's kind of
stuck there.
stuck out of like fear and pain. Like it's like this heaviness that's like
And
tethered
I
there.
I
Yeah.
even don't think it's as much of a soul as it is just like energy remnants from that. And then I think that because I think that soul could go off and be doing all these different things and that energy remnant of itself is still there. Think about it
Yeah.
almost too like when you're healing through passive regression, sometimes you can feel like a greater understanding or like wholeness within yourself. And I really think it's because some like unbeknownst to you, some of your energy was like out there imprinted in the world. And by like
It's like coming
healing,
back.
you called it home to
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Right. And so I think that's
So
also
no one
something
is
to be
watching you
prepared
having
for.
sex. It's okay.
No, no, no.
Even if like let's say they're I don't it's like your spirit guides don't care about that. They don't like right? They're like this is the human experience.
Are you
Like
And
sure?
think of
Are you
it this
sure
way,
about
like
that?
when you're talking to when you're talking to a psychic or someone, or if you have these abilities and you're talking to a past loved one or a guide, they oftentimes see the picture as a whole. Like they're not standing there watching you every second. They're like, I have a better understanding of like your journey and what you're doing. And they like, it's almost like imagine you were reading like a brief on someone and you're like,
Yeah,
this is their life. This is,
they're like reading your energy. They're reading like
yeah.
what's going on in your energy. Like, oh, you just like were in a car accident. Like this has happened. Like this is what's changed. Like they're not sitting there being like,
And time doesn't work the same for them, right? So they
yeah.
just understand the energy. So with that being said, my one of my ghost stories is that yeah, I used to cleanse all the time, all these like all our different spaces, like that really like sort of was got what got me more like interested in that sort of thing. But it's the same thing with you guys, like or with you, Soph. I never necessarily like grew up super spiritual. And we went to church for a bit and then we stopped going because my brother had gymnastics lessons. And so shows how committed we were. But we went, but my granddad, who I lived only a street away from, he never went to church or anything because when he was a kid, he went to church and because his family didn't have as much money, they were forced to like sit in the back because they couldn't put as much in the collection tray. And he always thought like, what a scam. Like if God is real, he doesn't care how much money you're putting in a collection tray, right? So he didn't like going to church and stuff, but he always believed in like some sort of higher power. But he also had like cool stories because he would say how like his mom, after she died, visited him in dreams, and then one day she came to him and she had like a suitcase or something, like a bag packed, and she said like, I won't see you anymore, but like you'll be okay and I'll be okay, basically. And then he never dreamt of her again. She was like, I'm going away now. And then he also said when his neighbor died, it was one day he was sitting in like his living room with the big window out to the street, and they lived on this like circle street. And he said he swore he saw his neighbor walking down the street. And because his light was on, he turned it off so he could like see outside better. And as soon as he turned it off, his neighbor like looked at the house and then like turned around and walked back up the street. And he always said to me as a kid, he's like, I wonder what would happen if I hadn't turned the light off. You know, like if I had been like, yeah, like you can come in. And so he would tell me stories like that. And I think I never thought I grew up like super spiritual, but then like these little stories like imprinted on me. And even like my mom, my whole life, my mom has said she has past life memories. And like what was my first deck was a past life deck of cards, right? Like I now do past life practitioner. I'm now a past life practitioner. So it's like it all sort of comes
There are little
together.
seeds, but it's not until like I guess like you're fully like ready to be tapped into it that you can become so aware of it and like put those like seeds and pieces together.
And we live in like an old creaky house, and sometimes like doors slam from like windows being open and breeze and stuff, but we just say it's our ghost named Peter
Oh
because
my
my sister named
gosh.
him.
I love that. I love that
Me
so
Pete the
much.
ghost.
I think I told this story before on the podcast, but I used to be a horse girl. Horse Girls Unite. And I
We're
would
not horse girls.
spend a horse girl. You don't know what a horse girl is?
Yeah, I'm not a horse girl.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Just anyone in the crowd that was a former or current horse girl. We unite. But basically I would spend, so it was my dad's cousins that owned this horse farm and their children owned a horse farm too. So like my second cousins, I don't really know how we're all related, but basically I grew up riding and I would spend like literally like weeks at a time over the summers with these people at their house. And so my dad's cousins, their house, part of it was new and part of it was like newly built because at one point it like burned down. So it was very old. It was like late 1800s, I believe, that this house was built. And so one of his cousins was a veterinarian, and they would keep all of the things like in the basement, like the sand, like the blood, like things and like all the things they would have it in their basement. And so like I just always got some strange vibes from that house. It was old. And I remember stories of like not my dad's cousins, but their son, so my second cousin, would tell me stories about him growing up. And one of the things that the ghosts would do in the house would like they would misplace things. So, he would have an assignment for work or for school, like literally homework that would go missing, and he would have to tell his teachers, like, sorry, the ghost moved my homework. I don't know where it is. And of course, teachers would never believe him, but he would go back to like his desk after he couldn't find it and it would be right there. And he would be like, what the fuck is happening? Like these, like literally, it's like the dog ate my homework, but it's the ghost version of that. He would have happened to him as a child. And I remember he would always ask me, like, do you guys have anything weird that's happened in the house? Like, because it's the house he grew up in. He was no longer living there. But he would always just ask to me and my sister because me and my sister would spend summers in that house. And we did have some strange experiences. And one of them I remember being that so one of the woman who is a veterinarian, she asked me to go in the basement and grab like the blood sample from like I don't know what's called, like the centrifuge. I made that up totally, but it's like the thing that like tests the blood or whatever. And I was like, sure. But I was so scared of their basement, you guys. It was like part of it was like kind of finished, but then there was a cellar area. And like the cellar had like two rooms with all these old toys. It was creepy. And so I went down to grab a sample. And I just remember hearing someone call to me from the cellar. Like it sounded like someone like was asked, like I forget what they said, but it was like, come here or something. And I was like, hell no, grabbed the sample, ran up the stairs. And then the second time something like that happened was we would have our horse barn parties at their house. So it was a Christmas party, and all the kids were in the basement. And we were like all hanging out, talking in like the finished part. And I was the only one that heard it, but it sounded like someone was calling me again from the cellar, like a straight up voice, like said something. And I was like, oh my God, I like kind of freaked out, but I was like, I'm with all these people, so it's fine. It won't get me. And then another time, something weird happened in that house was I was washing my face and no one else was in the house, but I remember there was something in the oven and I was like washing my face and I just started to hear the oven go off. And so I went out to check the oven, but there was no noise. Like there was still like plenty of time left on the oven. And I was like, okay, that was weird. And then that made me be so scared, you guys, of washing my face and closing my eyes. Like I was so scared after that experience to like wash my face and close my eyes. So it caused like this fear in me for literal years until I like started to grow more confidence in myself. But
I
yeah.
don't think I think my stupid child self would have been like, "Who's calling my name?" Like you being like, "No way, not going over there." I like as a child, so I think that my first house that I lived in was haunted because anytime that I like read something or I'm told a story of there like being a spirit in a basement, my mind, like even though I lived there way less and I have lived at the house my parents live at now so much longer, my mind always thinks of like a certain corner in that basement. So it makes me think like subconsciously I was picking energy up there. But as a kid, like it's so funny thinking back now because I don't think I have an experience where I like heard something or anything like that. But I guess there's one story sort of like that. But there's two things. First of all, I was like the ring leader. Okay. I would get all my friends at my first school before we moved. I feel like when I moved, I was a lot more worried about like, do I fit in this new school? Because I moved like halfway through a school year and making friends. But when I was at my first school, I'd be like the little ringleader. I
Not Maggie
remember
being the ringleader.
I would be like, we're making little potions in the schoolyard. I remember like telling ghost stories. Like I don't know if it was like something I was picking up on or if I just fabricated them. I'd be like, this ghost is in the schoolyard. There were like these old sort of like wooden planks underneath the grass and they'd like sort of start to come up. And I remember being like, we need to dig this up to appease the ghost. I'd like tell them we had to, I'd like have my whole like group of friends and I'd be like, the ghosts told me this and we have to do this to appease the ghosts. Like
She's always been a witch. She's always
yeah.
been a witch.
I like
Speaking to the forest.
Yeah.
I would like do all these things. I also like would collect little pebbles. Like I had a rock collection of just like tiny little pebbles.
I would love to meet little Maggie. I would have loved to know her.
I literally would just make so much stuff up, and I was like the little ringleader. I'm like, we're doing this. We're like doing this little. I remember like sitting around this wooden plank, and I'm like, we all have to talk to the ghost.
What did you speak? What did you say?
I don't know. I was just like, everyone has to tell the ghost we're helping them. And I have no idea
I love
because
that.
this doesn't come from like my family. It wouldn't come like from the media. I was watching like I don't know where I got this like these ideas.
Literally from
But I
your
was
spirit.
yeah,
Literally.
literally I was like hosting little like little rituals
Seances.
What
basically.
age were you?
Seances.
What age were
I was
you?
like in grade 2. So what's that? I'm like
What's that? I don't know.
You're like
We don't use that
six or
I'm
term.
like
seven.
7.
What?
Like
Oh
6,
my
7 and I'm
God.
like we're speaking to the ghost.
Well,
Oh
did
my
you guys ever
goodness.
have like, I'm curious because we used to do weird things. I'm talking about like that weird shit. Like, would you guys do that game where you would put your hands up towards the sky? What was it? Like, you would put your arms up and you would say something, and like your arms would just start moving without you like even doing
Yeah.
anything. What was that? Did you do that,
I
Meg?
did something where like you'd press your hands into like a thing, like into a frame like in a T pose, and then all of a sudden, like after a minute, like your arms would like raise on their own.
Yeah, it would be weird things. Or there
I
was
did
one
such
thing.
weird stuff as
There,
a
no,
kid.
I remember there was one thing me and my friends would do, and like we would all go up to this hill. Actually, very similar to what you're saying, Maggie. We believed there was a spirit or like the ghost of someone that lived on this rock by our elementary school, and we used to go up to this rock and we would play this game, and we would like carry people down the hill, but you would say light as a feather. No, wait.
Stiff as a board.
No, but it was with a rock. It was something with a rock, like light as a feather, something as a rock. And we
Heavy
would
as
start we'd start at the rock where the spirit was, and we would carry them down the hill, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it would feel like the person was levitating. Like all of a sudden, like it just wouldn't feel like you were carrying the person anymore. And I don't know if it was like
Sophie's
something
like,
to do with
who are
the
you guys?
gravity of the hill or like
I
what.
just don't know how you all remember these things. Like I can't
I
remember.
don't, but like the second that like Maggie's thing just sparked that, I was like, holy shit, we
I
would
want you to. I know that Carly's going to visit Maggie. I'm not going to cry, but okay, Carly's going to visit Maggie in the next couple of weeks, and I want you guys to do this.
This
I
episode
want you
will
to
come
get.
out, I think, when Carly's here.
Yeah, I want you to
Mhm.
literally like record yourself, put yourself in a frame or do that weird.
No, I
We're
don't.
no, we would do such funny things. Like as a kid, I think I was just like just vibing, and like I was so drawn to like collecting my rocks from the
I can just
playground.
imagine you as a kid. Like I can just imagine you being you, like you right now, but just like a tiny version.
And I had this bed, and my so we lived in a semi when I like before we moved, when I was really little, when I was doing all this crazy stuff, and which means like half of the house was ours, and then there was like a firm wall up the middle, and then the other half was like a
Yeah, that's
whole
what
other
we call
house,
a
right?
semi-detached house. Yeah.
And the neighbors always told my mom that she thought that the house was haunted, and I used to like I don't know. People are gonna think I'm crazy. My bed used to shake when I was sleeping. It would,
Girl, that's like the biggest sign that your house was fucking haunted.
my bed used to shake, and at first it scared me, and then I guess
Like
I just like
really
vibed with
bad.
it.
Like how intense was it
Like it
shaking?
would, like I would wake up and it would wake me up because it was like,
No,
and I'm like
I'd be
this
out.
little
I'd
girl in
be
this
out.
like double bed, and we moved to this house. And when we moved to this house, my sister and I were sharing a room, so they got us like little twin beds, and my brother took my bed, and my brother was like a scaredy cat. Okay, he was scared of everything, and he would so easily get like freaked out, especially at night. And I guess like I was trying to reassure him, and I went and I was like, "Now Austin, don't be afraid." And my mom's like, "Shut up." And I was gonna be like, "Don't be afraid if your bed shakes in the
I
middle of the
think
night.
you
It just
told me
does
this.
that."
I think you told me this.
I was like, "It just does that. It's fine." Like that's the thing. I think it was like a
And
few
did it? Did it shake for him?
No, it never did, but we had moved houses.
Oh my God.
And my bed never shook again. It was
Oh no.
only in that house. But it was literally like I think I just this is what I said. I think if I heard like this voice being like Maggie in a cellar, I'd be like, oh, because I'm like, we have to help the spirit. And then I'm like, my bed shakes, but it's fine. Like I'm just this little kid, like, oh,
Oh my
everything's
God,
fine.
wait. That just, first of all, I love that. I love that so much because you were just like totally chill as a child with your bed shaking. Like, what? I just remembered something. It was like kind of strange, and I realized this episode has been kind of long, so we will wrap it up shortly. But something that like I remember as a child was I don't know why. Like maybe we lived probably. I mean, given the fact that like I grew up in the Midwest of the US where like a lot of indigenous tribes used to live. But I used to always hear the beating of like a Native American drum in my dreams and it would freak me out and I would wake up in my bed. And I remember I would go to my mom because I was so scared because I would hear this like intense drumming almost in my dreams and then, like, when I was in my bed, I would just feel like, and like, it's so weird because now I'm just having this like memory. I did a sound bowl healing not too long ago where in the dream, I was not in the dream, but in the meditation, like where my soul took me was I was in the center of a circle with literally like people going around like drumming and doing the circle. And like, as a child, I would have dreams and I'd be so freaked out. So I'm wondering if it was like a past life
You
calling.
should do a past life regression and you should like set that as the intention because that's so
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it had some, I felt as though it was like something to do with like kind of Aztec, like Mayan energy of like doing some sort of ritual or something like
That's so
sacrificial
interesting.
ritual. I do not know, but it was crazy as a child. But I just remember I'd be so scared and like without fail, every single night, probably at the same time, I would get up in my sleep and I'd be so scared and I would walk towards the door and like try to feel around and find the doorknob because I was tiny and I couldn't find it. And I'd finally find it and I would go into my mom's room. Or if I was extremely scared, I wouldn't get up. I would just start screaming, Mom! Like at the top of my lungs until my mom would like run out of bed and come to me. But I don't know how long that was happening for. I was probably like four, like 3 or 4 though. I was really young.
I love these episodes because I feel like it's just Carly like remembering her spiritual past. Like all of a sudden something gets said and she's like, "Oh yeah, this happened to me." And then you're having this like huge reflection moment. It's so fun. But yeah, that's so interesting. I think we should do a past life. But maybe
Oh,
we should
for
watch
And then
sure.
come back and tell us
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, come back and then tell us about it. That's what we'll do.
Amazing. Love this, you guys. Loved this episode. Loved hearing about these fun little stories or moments. Just getting to know you gals more from our spooky stories. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. We will continue to be bringing you guys spooky, mystical, magical episodes, some things on witches, some things on, who knows? We'll see what we come up with.
Because
But
Carly can't remember.
because I can't remember the other episodes. Yeah, I can't remember right now. Oh, I do. I do. But you guys will stay tuned for next week because we've got a good one coming your way, brought to you by Miss Sophie here. So, all right. Love you guys all so much. Happy spooky season. Carve some pumpkins, frolic in the woods.
Ooh.
And talk to some
Ooh,
ghosts.
and go talk. But make sure they're the ghosts that you want to communicate with.
Love ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.